A trial has been taking place in San Diego's Superior Court that is getting very little attention, but the ruling could have big implications. Now, we sent our own Ainsley Earhart out to investigate.
The Community Youth Athletic Center in National City, California is a refuge for the city's at-risk youth.
It helps me a lot, stick out of games.
Kids that are in gang-infested homes, drug-infested homes, we provide them a safe haven.
I've been here since I was 16 years old, and they've helped me get accepted to San Diego State. I could have been in gangs, in trouble, but I managed to stay out of that and stayed in school.
I started in 1991. I came up with the idea, I presented it to my dad. Can we put up a punching bag behind our yard? He says, okay, let's go after it.
They saw all the damage that drugs and gangs were having in their community. So they said, let's do something to keep these kids out of the criminal justice system. All of a sudden, they built it and they came. In 2002, we were able to get a grant to purchase this property. We use boxing as a hook and provide them tutorial service and a mentoring service so they can be productive citizens.
It's grown from boxing to a school to community service programs. It's grown to now becoming a part of growing up in National City. And now we're training some of the children of kids that I used to actually train behind my yard.
But lately, the men behind the CYAC find themselves splitting their time between the boxing ring and a courtroom. With the help of the Institute for Justice, the gym is currently suing the city in what could become a landmark legal case. 4 years ago, almost 700 properties in National City were declared blighted, which enables the city to potentially use eminent domain to help developers purchase the land for redevelopment.
Eminent domain gives local governments the power to take private property for public use. Traditionally, this is used to build roads, hospitals, utilities, or schools. But a 2005 Supreme Court ruling loosened what is considered for public good to include pretty much anything that will raise taxes and create jobs.
In this case, the proposal was to take the gym's property and give it to a private developer for upscale condominiums.
They were looking at building a combination of retail, office building, and condominiums.
Which will be better for the tax purposes in the city.
Tax purposes, and also it would give...
So there is an incentive to build something else on that property?
Oh, definitely there is. And not only from the city standpoint, but even more so for the citizens. To give, the people in National City are wanting things that other neighborhoods have.
The mayor says the youth center was only supposed to occupy the building for 2 years, and everyone knew at the time it was zoned for redevelopment.
There was an empty building, and they wanted to go there temporarily. And that's the bad thing about temporary. Once a person gets in temporary, it becomes permanent.
The other side disagrees.
We paid for this building with blood, sweat, and tears to finally get it to where it's at. I don't think it's right for them to force us to move to build condominiums. If the city would come in and say, we're going to put a school here, we're going to put a freeway through here, but to build condos that the community here can't afford, that's crazy. That is crazy.
But the city argues it is not kicking them out and not using eminent domain against them. It's only retaining the authority to do so.
Mayor, I'm reading this article that was in Sports Illustrated saying that basically you want to tear down this community center where the kids go after school to build condos.
Right. What can I say? Nothing but a big lie. We've never done that. If they want to stay there, stay there. We'll just build around them, no problem.
Although the city says they don't have any plans right now to seize the gym through eminent domain, if the blight designation stands, it could happen at any time.
In California, you have got to challenge whether the government can take your property years and years before they actually take it. That's your one and only opportunity. When the mayor says, we're not planning on taking the property through eminent domain, what he means is we're not planning on taking it now, and if you believe us, then we can take it anytime in the next 10 years and there's nothing you can do about it.
It all comes down to blight. In order to use eminent domain, the city has to declare the gym and the area around it to be blighted. And that's what's being argued in court.
A rusting metal roof, damaged building materials, broken windows. These are all just basic maintenance issues that don't show any real blight. The real blight is the currently existing threat of eminent domain over these properties.
Is there any way for you to get the other areas around that blighted and just not their facility? Because they are making it crystal clear they do not want to leave.
Yeah, and we've told them they don't have to leave.
But if you make it blighted, I mean, you can kick them out of that space. And it sounds like you're interested in building a grocery store and condos and that kind of thing.
But if we just pick out their one property and says, okay, we're going to take you out from everything else, then we end up with no legal grounds for any other of this property anywhere on these three miles, because they're going to say, okay, if you justify doing that for them, how can you legally justify not doing that for us? We've already told them until they want to move, they can stay there forever.
I'm glad that that is on tape, because we're going to hold them to it. We're going to hold them to it because we don't want to move.
So as the judge reviews the evidence, the kids return day after day, unaware of the legal controversy going on around them.
How do you think this is going to turn out?
I'm a boxing coach. You always have to be optimistic. But at the end of the day, we're not going to stop what we do. And that's what we love, working with kids, making success stories and making champions, but making champions in lives.
Now, the judge is expected to rule in this case any day now, and our very own Ainsley Earhart joins us.
Thanks, Sean.
This is fascinating.
Isn't it?
All right, first of all, until you want to move, you can stay forever.
You can stay forever. That's what he's saying now. The guys at the gym are saying he has never said that. We're glad you got that on tape. We're going to hold him to it.
Well, I think you did him a big favor. All right, I don't like the parsing of words here. First of all, I looked at the footage of this, the raw footage.
Yes.
It doesn't look blighted. It looks like it's a building that's fairly well maintained. Okay, it has a broken window or roof needs a little work. So what?
Well, I asked the mayor. I said, they don't want to leave. They're changing lives in this facility. Do you have to make them leave? Could we compromise here? I said, this is a 3-mile stretch of the downtown area. Could you make some areas blighted, depending on what they look like, and not make their gym blighted? And he said, we can't, because how am I supposed to explain that to the pawn shop across the street or the guy down the street? But these guys, they bought the facility outright with blood, sweat, and tears, like he said. It's like someone coming in to take your house.
They also pay cash?
And they got a grant through UPS and some other companies.
To do it.
They don't owe anything on this, on this facility.
You see, what all these eminent domain stories come down to, Ainsley, and you really revealed this in this piece, money. They want the condos.
That's
they
what
want
they're
the
saying.
retail.
They're saying greed, profit.
They want money.
Right.
You know, and meanwhile, here you got drugs and gangs, a facility that's helping these kids and educating them.
Well, I'll tell you what happened, Sean. In 2005, there was a landmark case in Connecticut, and it really changed it changed eminent domain. Eminent domain used to be, you know, we'll build a road, we'll build a hospital. Well, because of that case, now you can, as long as you prove that it's for good use, which could be proving they're going to build a Walmart because it's going to increase jobs. Yeah, it changed everything.
Let me tell you, this is the government saying, we want that property. We're going to take it because we want to increase our tax base.
Right.
That's what this is. If we don't have private property rights, we don't have freedom. This is a really important case. Great job, Ainsley Earhart.
Thanks, Sean.
Thank you.
Thanks for letting me do it. Glad to be back.
Great to have you back. And let not your heart be troubled. Our great, great, great American panel. Next. Tonight on our great, great American panel, he is the host of the next generation of talk radio, the Wilkow Majority. My good friend Andrew Wilkow on Sirius XM Radio is here. She is a former Maine gubernatorial candidate, Democratic strategist. Rosa Scarcelli is here, and he is a WorldNet Daily columnist, host of what is Dove Radio?
Dove.us. Check it out.
What is Dove? What does that mean?
Hey, it's a Christian radio station.
Oh, okay.
Dove, peace.
All right, as long as peace through strength, Bob. I know you're a Reaganite, so.
That's right.
By the way, a former Democrat.
Reagan
you really are still a Democrat, right?
Still a Democrat. Reagan Democrat. Yeah, if I were a Republican, not many people would listen to me if I told them the Democratic Party has been taken over by the left. But if someone who is a Democrat and has been a Democrat his whole life says it and writes about it and has written about it for over 10 years, maybe fellow Democrats.
But you really want your party to change. You want to be a Democrat.
I want the party to change. I want us to have a genuine two-party system where there's a real choice for Americans, meaning an American party, two what I would call American parties.
All right. It is April Fool's Day. The Republicans had a little fun today.
Yes, we did.
Today, we celebrate a president that brought Americans together. Celebrate an end to our dependence on American energy.
The oil you recently discovered off the shores of Brazil, we want to be one of your best customers.
A president with the courage to tell us,
we will not rest. I will not rest. We will not rest.
Who consults with key decision makers.
The CEO of BP, I have not spoken to him directly.
To tackle the great challenges of our generation.
And I'm picking Kansas. I think that Kansas has more firepower.
And devised a breakthrough method to honor his promise.
To cut the deficit by half by the end of my first term in office.
Spend more.
We got to go spend money to keep from going bankrupt? The answer, yes, I'm telling you.
President Obama, 4 more years.
That ad, just Andrew, right?
You gotta love it.
I'm surprised Comedy Central's not jealous, because it looks like something they would have produced for The Daily Show.
I know, but it captures the presidency of Obama. And, you know, for all the people that are telling me Democrats coming on this program like Bob, he's going to win, Hannity, you're dreaming if you think any of these candidates are going to win. And I'm like, we're going to run it. The conservatives are going to run ads like this.
You said he's a one-term president. You could see these ads in the next cycle. This might not be a joke in 18 months.
I like the unicorn.
Yes. Besides the unicorn.
I keep raising the question, could we afford 4 more?
I'll tell you seriously, you said he's a one-term president, and with that Quinnipiac poll, I mean, 50% saying no second term. The only thing is, who's in the wings? You know, if the polls keep going down, Hillary Clinton's going to do something. She's already said she's not going to run, you know, not going to be Secretary of State in the second term. And we have to remember the Clintons. Have we forgotten the Clinton era?
Is there somebody you like
in the Republican side?
Yeah.
I gave money to Herman Cain last night.
You did. All right.
did.
Speaking of Herman Cain, let's roll this tape. We got a Herman. Here we go.
The liberal mainstream media, notice how they have tried to destroy Sarah Palin. Notice how the more popular Michelle Bachmann gets, the more they try to destroy her. You want to know why they go after those two ladies more viciously? Because they know that Michelle Bachmann or Sarah Palin is going to draw a lot of the women vote away from the Democrat Party. They are scared to death of that if they were to run and get the nomination. They are doubly scared that a real black man might run against.
You know, this isn't about, you know, gender or sex or pizza, for that matter. I mean, this is really, he's kind of on the fringe of the party, and I don't think he's being taken seriously because of that, not because of his...
I think what he was
Why do you support Herman? Because I've known Herman for years, but he hasn't held elective office. He is a...
That's why I'm supporting him.
Tell me.
Because he's not another guy who's trying to figure out where he should stand. He is not looking at the board and moving pieces around. He just says what he believes, which is kind of refreshing.
The other candidates are, is by assumption.
I'm not saying all of them. I'm saying that's what politicians do.
But his larger point is that, and I think it is sad, that our first black president is Barack Obama. I mean, you have to remember, he may not yet be a serious candidate, but he's a serious man, Herman Cain. I mean, I've interviewed him.
He's brilliant.
He is a business leader, you know, good communicator, knows what he believes, knows what he thinks, not, you know, his executive ability. But when you think about it, I mean, he's right. But the sadness that Barack Obama would represent the first black president, when you think 20 years in Reverend Wright's church, what does that have to do with what the average African-American believes?
Why is this a race issue, though? I think it's unfortunate that he says, you know, a real black American, because Barack Obama is a black American. I mean, we don't need to have a debate about this. We need real issues to be debated.
The real issues is how about Barack Obama stop punting on and changing his mind on foreign policy and on budget issues, you know? Yeah. All right, we got to take a quick break. We'll come back. We'll continue more with our great American panel. Straight ahead. And we continue now with our great American panel. All right, so we've got literally female soldiers. Here's the question. Should they be forced to wear Islamic-style headscarves when they're serving our country and stationed in Muslim countries? Because they have, according to the Daily Caller, been encouraged. Now, when you're encouraged by your leadership in the armed forces, that's kind of, you got to do it, right?
First of all, it puts them out of uniform. I mean, right off the bat. And uniforms mean something. That's why there are uniforms. And to put a headscarf on an American soldier's, what we're talking about, that's an insult.
Why are American soldiers in contact with civilians that they are concerned about this as an issue?
Well, that's part of their job. I mean, remember when they get intel from some of them, they're doing humanitarian work.
So it might facilitate their ability
it
might facilitate their ability to do their job in that case. Then they might need to be, in a costume that's more comfortable.
With our government suggesting that they've got to wear,
You have to picture it. You have to picture an American soldier with a headscarf.
Well, yeah. I think that's a good way to do it. I don't think,
we think it was odd if it was men, that's for sure.
Well, yeah, that's good point.
It's odd because how many cultural concessions do we make to other cultures? When people are in the United States, how many cultural concessions do we make to make people feel comfortable? I don't see why a woman's uniform should be altered. I mean, this is not a Janet Jackson thing. We don't have women out there showing skin. I mean, the uniforms are, if anything, androgynous.
Right, and Rosa's point about men's uniforms, we'd be outraged if it was men's uniforms. We should be equally outraged with women.
Let me show you an Indiana Democrat. You know, all these Democrats keep fleeing their states because they want to avoid votes. In this particular case, he compares leaving to serving in Afghanistan like they're exactly the same thing. Let's
outrageous.
roll the tape.
Really?
My wife teaches first grade. And this past week, she's one of the kids in her class, a little first grader, Dad is getting sent to Afghanistan. And he was really sad. And she said, well, your dad's doing something really good. That he's going to a country where people there are trying to take away the freedoms of other people there and keep them from living a good life. And so he's leaving to do something good. And one of the little girls in class, just on her own, and this has never been talked about in class because she doesn't do that, my wife doesn't do that, said, well, it's kind of like Mr. Cheatham, he left to make our schools better. And when I heard that gave me a reason to think.
I'll tell you what, I mean, the Afghan troops are doing their duty. The Democrats who've been running for the border are shirking their duty. We ought to send them all down to the southern border and maybe they can overwhelm the illegals.
Okay.
I mean, give it a shot.
I mean, I think it disrespects our troops to make that analogy, and he couldn't really mean that. But we need to, we need our civil servants to stay there and fight the good fight, whether it's uncomfortable or not, because that's what we expect.
Does that mean that being an Indiana Democrat means you're air raiding villages in the dead of night?
No, air raiding villages. Andrew, you got to get it right. Air raiding villages and killing civilians.
Right. That. Is that what that means to be
in the dark of night?
In the dark of night.
And by the way, the surge has failed and the war is lost.
And the thing, all of that running for the border, all of the kind of chaos party thing, and it makes me ashamed as a Democrat. It's all to emotionalize the debate. We know what's going on behind the scenes. We saw what Senator Schumer said. Extreme, extreme, extreme. He got instructions from, the party. They're trying to emotionalize this debate. Republicans are, and I say mainstream Americans are stepping forward, looking for reasonable responses, rational responses, and yet what do you see? You see chaos. You see union demonstrations, etc.
We want.
You're a Democrat, right?
I'm a Democrat, but I'm a Democrat who wants reasonable solution. I want civil debate.
You think Harry Reid's being reasonable?
I don't think any of this.
You think Chuck Schumer's saying on the phone call, here with $14 trillion in debt, you think Howard Dean rooting for a government shutdown is reasonable?
No, and I think most people don't want that. Okay. Most people, no matter what their party is, they're Americans first, and they want their government to work.
So their interpretation that this is 95 is dead wrong, that if a government shutdown occurs, that if they only want $20 billion in cuts in a $3.7 trillion budget, that they're going to be blamed for it.
Well, I think if there's a shutdown, they will be blamed for it. I think that's right.
Remember when Mitt Romney said that his sons were serving the country by helping him get elected, how crazy people got about that? People went ballistic when he said that. And this seems to be,
But I'll tell you, what Rosa's saying is that doesn't really represent the party, and that's what I've been saying for years.
Yeah, no, I tell you,
the extremists have taken over the Democratic Party.
It doesn't represent Americans.
The left wing has hijacked your party, but we're out of time, so I get to ask you. Have a great weekend. That's all the time we have left. Thanks for being here. See you Monday night.